Rita Hayworth was one of the most iconic women of Hollywood's golden age. To the world, she represented beauty, glamour, and desire. But behind that image, she saw things very differently. For Rita Hayworth, true handsomeness wasn't about perfect looks or fame. She had seen too many perfect men in Hollywood to believe that. For her, attraction came from something deeper: presence, character, and the way a man carried himself when no one was watching. Over the years, only a few men truly stood out to her. Not because they were the most famous, but because they felt real. One of the men who deeply shaped Rita's idea of true handsomeness was Orson Welles. He wasn't the typical Hollywood heartthrob. He didn't rely on polished charm or physical perfection. What made him stand out was his mind. When Rita married Welles, she entered a completely different world, one filled with creativity, intellect, and artistic intensity. Welles didn't see her as just a glamorous star. He saw her as someone with depth, someone capable of more than the image Hollywood had created for her. There was something powerful about the way he carried himself. He didn't need approval. He didn't try to impress. He simply existed with confidence rooted in intelligence. Conversations with him were never simple. They were deep, unpredictable, and often intense. That kind of presence made him incredibly attractive to Rita. He challenged her. He pushed her to think differently. And in doing so, he showed her that real attraction doesn't come from appearance. It comes from the mind. Welles also had a way of taking control of any room without raising his voice. His authority came from intellect, not dominance. People listened to him because he gave them something worth listening to. That quality made him stand apart from other men Rita had encountered. But Welles was also complicated. His dedication to his work often made him distant, and his intensity could be overwhelming. Yet even that added to his appeal. He wasn't simple. He wasn't easy, and that made him real. For Rita, Orson Welles represented a kind of handsomeness that was intellectual, layered, and impossible to fake, a presence that stayed with her long after their relationship ended. Another man who stood out to Rita was Glenn Ford. Where Welles was intense and unpredictable, Ford was calm and grounded. His presence wasn't loud. It was quiet and steady. He didn't try to dominate a room. He didn't chase attention. Instead, he carried himself with a natural confidence that felt effortless. Rita shared a strong connection with Ford, and what made him special was his stability. In a world full of chaos and ego, he remained the same. He was consistent, reliable, and emotionally balanced. That sense of stability was incredibly attractive to Rita. Around him, she didn't feel pressure. She didn't feel the need to perform or maintain an image. She could simply be herself. Ford also had a natural humility that made him even more appealing. He didn't try to stand out, yet he always did. That quiet confidence created a presence that felt genuine and rare. There was something comforting about knowing exactly who someone was, without surprises or hidden layers. Ford offered that clarity. And for Rita, that clarity felt safe. Ford's handsomeness didn't come from intensity. It came from comfort, from the way he made people feel, from the quiet confidence that didn't need validation. For Rita, this was a completely different kind of attraction. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't overwhelming. It was steady, and that made it powerful in a completely different way. Then there is Gable, a man who defined masculinity in Hollywood. Known as the King of Hollywood, Gable had a presence that was impossible to ignore. But what made him truly stand out wasn't just his looks, it was his confidence. Gable didn't try to prove anything. He didn't need to. He walked into a room knowing exactly who he was, and that certainty made him incredibly attractive. His presence was calm, controlled, and completely self-assured. He didn't chase attention. Attention followed him. That natural authority gave him a kind of handsomeness that felt timeless. There was also a sense of effortlessness in the way Gable carried himself. He didn't appear to be trying, yet everything about him felt intentional. That balance between ease and control created a powerful presence. For Rita, this kind of confidence was rare. It wasn't forced. It wasn't exaggerated. It was natural, and that made it even more appealing. Gable represented a kind of masculinity that didn't rely on validation. He didn't need approval from others because he already believed in himself. That inner certainty gave him a presence that couldn't be shaken. And for Rita, that kind of self-assurance was one of the most attractive qualities a man could have, because it came from within, not from the outside world. Another figure who influenced Rita's perception of handsomeness was Fred Astaire. He wasn't known for traditional good looks, but his elegance made him unforgettable. Astaire's appeal came from his precision, his discipline, and the way he carried himself. Every movement was intentional. Every performance was controlled yet effortless. For Rita, who was also a dancer, this meant something deeper. She understood the work behind that perfection. She knew what it took to move like that, to perform with that level of grace. Astaire also had a calm presence that translated into everything he did. He didn't rush. He didn't overcomplicate. He trusted his craft, and that trust showed in his performance. That level of control created a different kind of attraction, one rooted in mastery. Rita admired that deeply because she recognized how rare it was. Astaire's handsomeness came from refinement, from subtlety, from the quiet confidence of someone who didn't need to be loud to be noticed. He showed Rita that attraction could come from artistry, from the way someone expresses themselves, not just how they look. And in that elegance, she found something timeless. Finally, there is Gene Kelly, who brought a completely different energy. Where Astaire was controlled and refined, Kelly was bold and expressive. His presence was dynamic. He didn't just perform. He lived every moment of it. His energy was real, raw, and impossible to ignore. For Rita, this kind of authenticity was incredibly attractive. Kelly didn't hide behind perfection. He embraced emotion, movement, and intensity. There was a physicality to his performances that made them feel alive. He wasn't just showing movement, he was feeling it. And that emotional connection made his presence stronger. Kelly's confidence came from expression. He didn't hold back. He allowed himself to be fully present, and that honesty made him stand out. For Rita, this was another form of handsomeness, one rooted in life itself. It wasn't controlled or measured. It was natural, powerful, and deeply human. Kelly represented the idea that true attraction comes from being fully yourself, without fear, without hesitation, and without the need to appear perfect. When you look at the men Rita Hayworth found truly handsome, a clear pattern appears. It wasn't about perfect faces. It wasn't about fame. It was about presence. Each of these men represented something deeper: intelligence, stability, confidence, elegance, and authenticity.